I want to take a second to show you a real video of villagers throwing rocks at a drone aircraft that has crashed to the ground in Afghanistan. Here it is. After seeing that video, I imagine you're having the same thought I did, which is how sick, how repulsive, how terrible for those villagers to beat a defenseless little drone. That drone was just minding his business, just doing his job of patrolling the skies, looking for terrorists to bomb, looking for people who look like terrorists to bomb, or people who walk a little like a terrorist, or family members of someone who expressed interest in a group that once expressed interest in donating money to a group that expressed interest in terrorism. That is a hate crime, all right? And I don't think we should stand for it. You see, there's a way to create true, real terrorists. That recipe is to take 1 part poor people, then you take 2 parts giant militarized planes flying over their heads at all hours. You put in a sprinkling of death to their friends and family. By the way, this recipe calls for no judge, no jury, no statement of charges, no way for them to plead their case, no way for them to avoid possible death from above, and also no paprika. Don't use paprika. So you take all those ingredients, you stir them up a little, and you put them into the desert, and you let it bake for about 5, maybe 10 years, and voila! You have yourself thousands, if not tens of thousands, of brand new terrorists. Jamie Oliver and Rachel Ray would be jealous. Look, I'm not saying I like this recipe. In fact, I hate this recipe, but I'm just telling you, our military seems to love this recipe, and it works every time.
Hi there, I'm Darren Howard.
And hi, I'm Robert Nisbet.
It's an awesome Thursday. We are recording in downtown Kelowna, and we're talking about how to make terrorists.
That's right. The war on terror is working very well at creating more terrorists.
Yes, I know. They're ensuring generations of people are going to hate them from the Middle East all the way up to Pakistan.
Oh, you mean like blowback?
Yeah, and also on their own citizens. We're taking a look at more bovine excrement. Check this out.
Well, the latest propaganda effort to introduce your children to the new totalitarian society comes by way of Disney. They've unveiled a new cartoon series where camera-equipped ladybugs spy on kids and then report back to a central authority.
So never fear whenever she's near. It's Shutterbug time, Shutterbug time.
This is predictive programming to get your children to accept the coming drone surveillance police state. We warned you about this way back in 2007. DARPA researchers were figuring out how to inject computer chips into moth pupa and then hatching them into healthy cyborg moths. The hybrid insect microelectromechanical systems project aims to create literal shutterbugs, camera-toting insects whose nerves have grown into their internal silicone chip so that wranglers can control their activities. Disney's Shutterbug isn't the only cartoon that's out there acclimating your children to this dystopic future. The TSA's rolled out their own indoctrination cartoon, Stop Screen Go, the agency that was set up to purposely obstruct, harass, and train the American public will now condition your children to be compliant with their invasive pat-downs and wholly ineffective nude body scanners. And Disney's also showing that being perpetually tracked via biometrics is just part of another day at the happiest place on Earth. The CIA-connected company has moved beyond just fingerprint scanners at the front gate. Now they have the Magic Band RFID bracelet. It tracks you through your entire trip, working as a door key, a ticket, and a credit card. But most frightening, it creates an online profile for each family member that can be accessed by the costumed characters. So if you were concerned before about your kids talking to strangers, just wait till you find out that Mickey is actually a middle-aged man with no background check who now has access to their name and birth date.
So, pretty creepy, huh?
It's masked. It's Disney.
Well, it's Disney, and it's also making bugs into spies.
I know, and then normalizing the drone procedures for domestic purposes. Gee, I wonder why they're doing that.
Well, you got to condition the next generation for the police state.
Yeah, and Disney is right there at the top of it, which makes it even creepier. You can see Disney's been overfinanced. They've bought anything fuzzy under the guise of better business.
Yes, and also they're very tied in with the police state idea as well.
Yeah, I know. Shutterbugs, man, talking about protesting. I would boycott any station that actually showed that.
Of course, now the U.S. is considering using their drones on another U.S. citizen.
And this is why Shutterbugs is out. They're trying to normalize the fascist process, which are drone strikes, and that, what is it? The Safety Act, the Patriot Act?
Patriot Act.
Check this out.
The U.S. government is once again considering whether or not to use a drone strike to assassinate a U.S. citizen living overseas who is suspected of terrorism. Right now, we don't know the name of the suspect or what country he is currently in, but information shared with the Associated Press indicates that the person is in a country that will not allow U.S. military on the ground. Administration officials also say that the CIA has drones watching that suspect, who is accused of being an Al-Qaeda facilitator, who's been directly responsible for deadly attacks against U.S. citizens overseas, and who continues to plan attacks against them that would use improvised explosive devices. So why not just kill him, as the U.S. did U.S. citizen Anwar al-Awlaki? Well, the CIA wants to, but since the killing of Anwar al-Awlaki, the Obama administration has issued some new rules, including that these so-called targeted strikes be carried out only by the military, not the CIA, and that the target must pose a continuing imminent threat to U.S. persons. Now, this is where things get messy, because even though the military and the CIA say that the person's a threat, they haven't offered any evidence. No proof whatsoever that that is the case. Now, the Justice Department is building the case against him, but here's the biggest problem. The case isn't going to a grand jury or into the justice system at all. No. In fact, the Justice Department is working to build a case that will go to the president for review, and then the president will decide his fate. Which means despite the appearance that this is a new system, it's still completely lawless for a president to decide whether or not to kill a citizen who has been convicted of absolutely no crime, hasn't even had evidence presented against him. See, this new system has the appearance of care and of thoughtfulness, but it continues to violate our entire system of rule of law.
So they used to say, trials and actual...
You mean rule of law?
Yeah.
No, that doesn't exist anymore in the USSA.
Yeah, the USSA. Yeah, I remember that one. We should make a graphic. If you have anything to add to what we're doing on Video Radio, get a hold of us on our Facebook group, on our YouTube channel, and of course you can email Robert ad nauseum because he has so much time.
Yeah, I'll be glad to ignore your email.
Because your call is important. Coming right here, we talk about what the news does not talk about, or at least we talk about what they don't talk about ad nauseum.
Well, there's corporate terrorism going on.
I know. 300,000 people lost their water just recently.
And, of course, another company that was washing coal has managed to spill 80,000 tons of coal reject into the river as well.
That included arsenic.
Check it out.
Last week, startling reports surfaced of a pipeline break that dumped upwards of 80,000 tons of coal ash into North Carolina's Dan River. Now, you might not have heard about this story, given that the state's environmental agency said that the situation was contained and that water tests showed no reason for alarm. Well, over the weekend, the North Carolina Department of Environment and Natural Resources backtracked and said that they mistakenly reported their early toxicity tests. According to the agency, the levels of deadly arsenic are in fact well above the exceeded limit for human exposure. This latest spill underscores the dangers of toxic fossil fuel byproducts and the difficulties that exist in containing them. You may remember the 10,000-gallon chemical spill that infected the water supply of 300,000 people in West Virginia just over a month ago. Since then, the city of Charleston has closed at least 3 schools after detecting the black licorice scent of the chemical MCHM. And get this, although there has been no credible assurance by authorities that the water is safe to drink, residents are still getting water bills. You heard that right, Charleston residents are actually being billed for potentially poisonous water. Needless to say, residents are furious, and currently there's a class action lawsuit underway. But there's no silver lining to this story, as Freedom Industries, the company responsible for the catastrophic spill, recently filed for bankruptcy. The bankruptcy, by the way, is also being investigated as a company called Mountaineer Funding stepped up to provide bankruptcy capital for Freedom Industries. The conflict of interest here stems from the fact that the man who owns Mountaineer Funding also owns, you guessed it, Freedom Industries.
As always, we have way too much information that they don't want to be talking about. Attention, Christy Clark. There's another energy problem.
Yes, there always is an energy problem, and I don't think fracking is going to solve it.
Did you know that Iceland is 100% renewable energy?
I did not know that.
Ooh, and it would be so hard. I mean, you would need a country with, like, hot springs.
Oh, you mean like we have in Harrison?
Revelstoke.
Revelstoke, you know.
I don't know. At any rate, not that one of the major problems with, of course, their renewable stuff is that the existing rich people would become poorer.
Oh no, you mean they may have to pay more taxes?
Yes, and this is apparently the whole process of people waking up is making the rich feel threatened.
Yeah, here's a rich person that actually has something to say about that.
The 1% are not causing the inequality. They are the job creators. I mean, Silicon Valley is, I think Kleiner Perkins itself over the years has created pretty close to 1 million jobs, and we're still doing it. It's absurd to demonize the rich for being rich and for doing what the rich do, which is get richer by creating opportunity for others.
How do you feel threatened?
Well, I said I didn't feel personally threatened. I feel, however, that as a class, I think we are beginning to engage in class warfare. I think the rich as a class are threatened through higher taxes, higher regulation, and so forth. And so that is my message.
So what do you think?
Well, you know, I don't think they can actually, I don't think they're allowed to do anything to actually address the wealth gap.
No, that would be solving problems. As, of course, you listen to Mr. O'Leary on that nonsensical Lang and O'Leary exchange, he says that sharing the wealth just isn't going to happen.
Of course, President Obama is trying to raise the minimum wage, and there's been a lot of hue and cry and much ado about nothing over it, because it's only going up to $10.10 an hour.
One thing that we were talking about is that Walmart is crying the blues because they cut back on food stamps, and because they cut back on food stamps, Walmart, 1/3 of the American grocery chain, is suffering because of it.
Yeah, it's funny, you know, the people that pander, or not pander, but provide for the lowest bracket of income are not being shopped at by the lowest bracket of income.
And we hope that that trend continues. However, we do see that there's more hunger going on in the States, and that's why we have things like the Municipal Sustainability Project. I am Darren Howard.
And I am Robert Nisbet.
Not feeling sorry for the rich at all. We're going to continue talking about... what's on our notes? Oh, protests.
Yes.
Small thing happening in the Ukraine.
And in Venezuela and Thailand. And gee, it's hard to pick the country where there's not a protest going on.
Oh, wait. That would be Western Canada.
Yeah.
We'll be back after this lack of commercials.
I didn't know it was you. I thought I was being raped. That's not what rape feels like.
I don't like rape. Not even the fake kind where the woman kind of secretly likes it.
I feel like I'm being raped by a sleeping bag! I thought it was a rapist or something. Rapists don't knock and wave.
She lets me pork her while she's sleeping.
Sleep assault?
Yeah.
You took Tylenol PM. In the AM.
And as I recall, you still had sex with me.
Stop fighting it, just give into it. I don't know why I'm quoting a rapist.
Charlie and I had this drunken threesome with a crazy chick right on this couch. Unfortunately, she passed out, and Charlie and I kept going without her.
Only we touch our women when they don't want us to.
Somebody day raped me, and I didn't think I'd live through it, but I did, and I'm stronger and still needy.
And here comes a part where he carries her into the house like a Viking on a rape quest.
If you go back there with him, you'll need a bite guard and a rape guard.
I lost my virginity at cheerleading camp. He just climbed into my tent. Alien invasion.
As a woman, I'm gonna have to ask you to stop comparing prostate exams to the pinball scene in The Accused.